This conference will now be recorded.
Okay.
Just a second, Mithun. 1 second.
This conference will now be recorded.
Yes. And once you are done with the training, right? So you need to stop, pause the recording and then end the session. Okay. So if you don't pause, then the recording will not be saved. Okay. So
Okay.
that is the one thing you have to remember, guys. You also Mithun may forget because he will be teaching, right? So he may forget. So guys, it is your responsibility to remind him to pause the recording so that the recording will be saved in the cloud. Okay. Yeah, that's it, Mithun. You can continue. And don't forget to pause the recording and end the session after the class. Okay.
Okay. Is there any limit for this recording, or should be uh,
No, no, no. There is
unlimited?
no limit. No, no. Unlimited. Unlimited.
Okay, fine then. Yeah, thanks.
Okay. Before you leave the session, you need to pause the recording and leave. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, sure, sure. I'll do it.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Yeah. My name is Mithun. As Mithun already introduced myself. So let me introduce myself again. My name is Mithun. I'm having close to 9 years of experience into DevOps as well as into a cloud. Like I worked on AWS and as well as Azure cloud. So I worked in multiple domains like retail, e-commerce, and IoT and other stuff. So currently I'm working for a company, and this is my uh, extra part time. Okay, so this is about myself, and I could see only 5 people in this session. Uh, yeah, 6 people, right? 6 people. I could see 6 people in the session. So could you please introduce by yourself? So what are you?
I'm
And yeah, please go ahead. Yeah.
myself Ganesh.
Okay. So are you working? So just say your name, working or not working, and
No, no,
yeah, what is
right now
the
I'm not
job?
working.
Okay.
Hi Mithun, my name is Sharan.
Hey, hi Sharon.
Yeah, hi. Presently, I'm not working actually.
Okay. So
Okay.
did you work before? Do you have any past
Yeah, yeah.
experience?
Yes, yes. Into sales field actually.
Okay.
Okay.
And what about you, Vinay?
Hello, Mithun. I'm Vinay. So I'm not working, but I'm from like non-IT field. So
Okay.
I'm just new to this field. So
Okay. Sure then. Yeah. Thank you.
Hi,
Vimal.
Mithun. Vimal here.
Yeah. Hey,
Currently,
hi
I'm
Vimal.
not working, and previously I was working as IT admin.
Okay. Nice. Yeah. Thanks, Vimal. Anirudh.
Hi Mithun, this is Anirudh, and I am a mechanical engineer. I had worked previously, but right now I am not working, and
Okay.
that's about.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Ganesh.
Hi, Ganesh here. I was system admin in this thing, VMware.
Okay. Hey, nice. Thanks. Madhu.
I presently I'm working in BL as assistant admin. I'm also non-IT field only.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks everyone for introducing yourself. So today we are going to learn what is DevOps and what are the tools we are going to learn and what is exactly we'll be learning it in the uh, DevOps. Okay. So I think Mithun has already given some introduction about DevOps, but let me quickly overview or walk you through what is DevOps and when it will be required and how can we learn the DevOps. So I'll just give few information about that. So first of all, DevOps is a practice. It's not a like ಇವಾಗ AWS cloud ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ so we'll be having services and in that we'll be learning services and we'll get a certification for that. So that's a kind of a profile. But here DevOps is a practice. So practice as in like it's a culture. So here we'll be adopting some standards, and also we'll be working on some agile methodologies. So I'll explain what is agile and all. So before going to that, so what is DevOps? DevOps is a methodology or a practice. So here we are going to learn multiple tools. DevOps is itself, it's not a tool. DevOps will be having multiple tools. So you understand, right? So what is DevOps, right? Is DevOps? DevOps is a methodology. Just it's a practice or methodology. Practice or culture. So second thing is DevOps is not a tool. It's not a tool. Tools, as in like the softwares. So for example, if you're working as a DBA, or if you're working as an IT admin, so you'll be having some tools, right? The same way here also we'll be having a tools. So DevOps is just a profile or a method or a culture. So under that we'll be having a tools. You won't, I mean, DevOps itself is not a tool. When you say DBA, DBA will be working on the database. So that itself as a tool. DBA is the tool. I mean, basically Oracle DBA. I mean, Oracle database and MS SQL database. So these are the kind of tools. Okay, so those are the softwares are the tools which will be working on it. But here we'll be handling multiple tools. So DevOps, it's not a tool. It will be having a tools. Okay, so but it has multiple tools. That is, uh, you know, that is the introduction of the DevOps. So you might have seen this kind of diagram. There is a loop, DevOps diagram. Wherever you look for the training, DevOps training, you might have seen this kind of loop architecture or diagram. So why they are mentioning this kind of logo, or why they have this kind of diagram. So I'll just let you know why it is having this kind of architecture or the diagram in this way. So basically, DevOps will be having multiple tools. So before going into all the tools, so it has some methodology. So initially I told it is a practice or method or a culture. So it follows multiple methods. Basically, it follows agile methodology. So in that we will be having concept called SDLC. SDLC, there is a concept. So what is SDLC ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ? So software development lifecycle. Software development lifecycle. Okay. So SDLC stands for software development lifecycle. So what is this SDLC? So SDLC is a uh, basically it's a again method where it will be having some set of uh, phases or the stages. So that can be seen here. So SDLC lifecycle will be having these many phases or steps. So basically it will be having plan, code, build, test, release, and deploy. And there are some other steps as well, other phases. So basically it will be having plan, code, build, test, and release or deploy. So these are all additional steps which comes under the uh, SDLC in the modern SDLC. But traditional SDLC will be having code, plan, build, test, and release. So this is the life cycle of SDLC. So SDLC will be having the phases or the steps. So where we have to work on the uh, each phases if you want to build any application. So why we require these? So basically when you go with any IT industry, they'll follow this SDLC. For example, I'm running a company. So if I want to build a application for my client, so what I'll do, basically I'll take the requirement and I'll plan it. So I'll just understand what's the requirement, and that using that requirements I'll just plan. So how can I proceed with the requirement? So that is the plan stage. So second stage is code. So code as in like, so I'll distribute that requirement into a small segregations, and I'll give it to the developers to code it. So there will be a set of developers or set of development teams which they are working on the programming side. So I'll give my requirement to work on the programming part. So that is about coding stage. So there will be another step called build. So what is this build stage? This is very important we require for the DevOps course. So build, basically it's a common word, comes under the DevOps. So I'll explain what is build here. So when the developers build, programs the requirement, right? So basically what happens when you want to run that as an application, so you cannot run it. It will be having multiple programming files, and using that you cannot run the application. So for that, what we had to do, we had to make or convert that programmable multiple programmable files into a executable file, single file. So we had to convert that as a single file or executable file. So that is called build. So basically we'll be converting that program files into a executable file to run our application. So that is called build. So you understand, right? What is plan, code, build, right? So after this, once the application is ready, it will be running. So for that, we have to conduct a test. So testing will be the another mechanism to improve our quality. So basically, it requires when you before submitting to the clients. So application is ready, but you have to test some functionalities or some performance related testing. So that can be conducted under the testing phase. So testing phase is for the testing purpose. So where you can conduct the functionality test and regression test and some other testing scenarios. So once it is done, we will be releasing it. So basically, so whatever the requirement given by the clients for the first time, so we'll be releasing by tagging some versions like 1.0 or 1.1 or 1.2, something like that. Initially we'll be calling it as 1.0 because it is the first version. 1.0 stands for it's a initial version, 1.00 or something like that. We will be giving some uh, tag. So that tag is called as release. Basically this is the first release, and in that release we'll be having some features, whatever the requirement given by the client, so that will be mentioned in this release, and for that requirement we'll be tagging a version. So that is called as release. Okay, and comes to deploy. So this has to be deployed in one of the server. So you might have seen in the EC2 only will be deploying our applications. So that deployment step is called deploy. So here in the DevOps course we'll be learning what is build, test, release, deploy, and operate and monitor. So operate is again you can configure the server based on your requirement, and also you can monitor your application as well as the server. So make sure it should not down all the time. So make sure it should run 24/7. So that is the purpose of having monitoring. So why DevOps required in this case? So basically DevOps, before coming to DevOps, what happens? They'll just plan, code, build, and test, and there is a separate team called operations. So these steps can be done by the development team. So developers used to plan, code, build, and test. So development, as in like, it will be having both developers, testers, and some other support people as well. So these people used to take care of this plan, code, build, and test. So once this is done, so they'll give the binary file or the executable file to the IT operations teams. IT operations teams used to take that and deploy it and monitor that application and as well as the server. So if there are any comes in between, okay, they'll just send out an email to dev team, or just they'll inform to respective people. So again, these people have to take care what is going on and why it is breaking. These people will take some time, maybe a day or a week or a month, so it depends. So until that application will be having the same kind of issues. So there is no proper communication between development and operation teams. So that's the reason IT industries come up with a plan called clubbing these two teams, development and as well as IT operations teams. So they have named it as Dev plus Ops, so DevOps. So that's how the DevOps name has been introduced. So here, right, once, what is the purpose of having these a team together? So basically it will take care of the plan, code, build, test, as well as the deployment and monitor. So both process will be, or both the uh, actions will be done by this single team itself. So single team will take care of all this development work as well as the IT operations teams. So they cannot blame each other, right? If they are in the same team, if he is handling the same entire process. So that's that's the reason they have come up with a plan called clubbing these two different teams into a single team as a DevOps. Okay, so let us see how it will be operating. Okay, so when you are in the same team, when you are part of the DevOps team, so basically you'll get the requirement. Developers will work on the programming, and they'll ask you to build it. As a DevOps engineer, you have to build that code, and basically build will be responsible for converting the code into executable files. Okay, so once it is ready, we'll be testing the uh, test cases. Okay, if you have any test scenarios, you can just execute it here, and also you can release that and deploy to a specific server or EC2 instance, and you can also set up the monitor for that. And in between, if you have any concerns or any errors or issues comes in between, so that will be again looped back to the development team, and it will again continue the process. This can be automated. So earlier they used to do it manually. So DevOps team will be responsible for automating this entire process. So what they do for planning, there are some tools like Jira, Confluence. So using that, we'll get the collect the requirement and we'll plan it. So we'll be getting the gathering the information or the gathering the requirements and store it in the Jira ticket as a Jira ticket, or we'll store it in the Confluence page for tracking purpose. That is comes under the plan. So this is also having multiple tools. So this may have multiple tools. Plan stage will have also have multiple tools. So using that tools, we'll be automating this process. So we'll have the Jira, and also we'll be having the uh, code. Code is for storing your programming files into a centralized place. So centralized place is called as there are some source code repositories, GitHub and Git. Also, we'll be having GitLab. There are other source code repositories. In the AWS, we'll be having code commit. There are some other different or varieties of source code. Source code repositories. So using that tool, we'll be automating the process. I'll tell you how it will be useful in the DevOps. So I'll explain what each tool does in the DevOps. Okay. So in code, we'll be having GitHub and Git, and there are some other uh, repositories as well. Source code repositories. So for build, we'll be having multiple tools again. So each stages will be having its own tools. So plan is having Jira and Confluence and some other equivalent tools. Code you'll be having source code repository like GitHub, GitLab, and other tools. And build will be having Maven uh, and what is that, npm. For Maven is for the Java code build purpose. There are some other build tools for building the different varieties of source codes. Okay, so under this we'll be converting the source code into a executable file. That is called as build tool. So build tools are many. Maven anta barutte and npm anta barutte. There are so many other build tools. So after that, we'll be having a test. So once the build is ready, we'll be sending that into a testing phase. So testing also done via automation. So we have a Selenium and other tools. Okay. So using that, we'll be automating JUnit. So using that tools, we'll be automating. So this entire process will be done in the single tool. I'll explain what is that tool. So basically, each stage will be having its own tool to automate this entire process. So for deploy, we'll be having Ansible and Terraform, and for monitoring, we'll be having other tools such as uh, for log monitoring, we have a Splunk, uh, Graylog, and CloudWatch, and there are so many other uh, ELK as a log monitoring. And for metrics monitoring, we'll be having Grafana, Prometheus, and CloudWatch. Uh, there are so many others as well. So I don't remember all, but yeah, so you'll get multiple monitoring tools in the market. So using all these tools, we'll be automating the process. So we'll basically integrate each stages by its tools. So for example, plan will be having Jira. So Jira will be integrated to Git or some other tools, and code will be having GitHub. So that will be integrated to the other tool for the build purpose. And this tool again will be integrated to the Selenium and other tools. So this entire process will be integrated and automated. So that will be controlled by the or used by the Jenkins. So there is a tool called Jenkins. Basically, that will manage all these stages, most of the stages. So basically, for plan and code, we'll be having different tools. Jira for the plan, and for code, we'll be having Git and GitHub. So for build, test, release, and deploy will be managed in the Jenkins itself. All these four will be managed in the Jenkins tools itself. Jenkins is the one tool which manages all these stages. So basically, it will be having a concept called plug and play. So whenever you want to do a automation, so you can just download the plugins with respect to your requirement, and you can automate the process. So that is called plug and play concept. So I'll explain what is Jenkins and how to use the plugins in the Jenkins, and how it can be automated and how it can be integrated. So we are going to learn uh, basically all these you know tools with respect to the uh, stages. For code, we'll be learning Git and GitHub. For build, we'll be having Maven, and also for testing, we'll be learning JUnit and Selenium. So just in the overview, I'll explain what is Selenium and JUnit in the later session. So and also we'll be learning how to release your product and how to deploy it to the specific server, and also how to set up a monitoring for your system. So this tells entire steps are called as a CI/CD. So this is called as a CI/CD. So CI as in like continuous integration, and CD stands for continuous delivery or continuous deployment. So this entire process is called as a CI/CD. There is no end for this. Okay, it's continuous looping. Okay, continuously it is connecting one tool to another tool. That is called integration. So this integration is called continuous integration. So there is no gap in between. So one tool will be integrated to another tool, or basically the process will be connected in, I mean, continuous. I mean, there is no end for the process. So basically it will be having loop format. That's the reason we have, I mean, the people has used this loop. Okay, and also we have uh, multiple tools to automate this entire process, that is called CI/CD. So Jenkins is also called it as a CI/CD because most of the stages will be automated in the Jenkins itself. That's the reason Jenkins is also called it as a CI/CD tool. CI/CD tool is nothing but basically it has to perform integration as well as the uh, deployment. So integration as in like it has to perform the build, and also it has to perform the deployment in the CD. So we are going to learn all these tools, but before that, let me know, I mean, if you have any questions. And also, is that clear to you guys, and is it make sense? Are any
Yes,
questions on this?
Yes, Mithun.
yeah, I do have.
Okay, so if you have any questions, you can feel free to ask, and we can I'll help you on your questions, and we can go further.
Okay, Mithun, I have one question.
Okay.
Yeah, it's anyway, you told that it's kind of a loop, right? Like I do have a question, like when once for first release happen, so every all the peoples will start to work, right, from client place.
So wherever they work, right? So for example, if you are running a
No,
company,
still I
right?
didn't complete my question.
Okay.
Yeah, once first release happen, everyone will start to work.
Yes.
When next, like if in future, like any upgrades or else any application upgrades, any application need to be added or something, like
Mhm.
how this loop will work, Mithun? Like, will they take any downtime or else some time to do all the things, or application need to be stopped, or else continuously it will be running, and from backend like automatically it will be pushed and released as a second version.
Yeah, that's a good question actually. Yeah. So what happened? So for the first time, when you gather the information from the clients or the customer, right? So that will be planned, okay, and that will be planned and basically, one second. Okay, so that will be planned, and based on that plan, accordingly, it will be programmed, and the application will be released. Okay, that is the first release. So again, if they have, I mean, the client may have multiple ideas, and he wants to improve his application, and he'll come up with another plan or come up with the other requirements. So those requirements will call it as a features. So features will be added to the existing plan and will again give it to the developers to I mean code on that, and it will be released again. So that will be called it as a next version. So 1.1 or 2.1, whatever, 2.0 or 1.1. Okay. So when you are deploying to the system, right, so you should maintain the high availability as in like it should have the capability of handling the traffic, even if the system one system goes down, another system should take the traffic. So kind of a load balancer. So when you are running in that way, so probably you don't have the downtime for your application. So the deployment always happens in there are some deployment strategy. So basically there are some deployment strategy. Using that strategy, we are implementing our deployment code. As a DevOps engineer, we have to build that pipeline. So basically, it has to deploy to the server or deploy to the system without having the downtime. There are some deployment strategies. So first, for example, we have the, okay, let me show you. So this is our, let us imagine this is our production, okay, production server, production server. Okay. So what we do, uh, under this we'll be having multiple servers. So we consider this as a load balancer. So under this we have two systems or two EC2 instances or VMs running under this. So always the endpoint will be accessed from this load balancer, not from the individual nodes. Okay. So when this is connected, right? So basically the traffic will be served from these instances to the load balancer. So the deployment also should go in this way. So first we have to deploy any one of these EC2 instances, okay, and also once it is up and running, then we'll also deploy to the other one, so that there won't be any downtime for your application. So in this way we have to deploy. So there are some deployment strategy or methods. So we have to adapt it to our pipelines. So I'll show you. So there is a deployment strategy called blue green. So one setup will be having blue. Basically, when you are implementing a feature or a new requirements with the existing application, you can deploy it in this blue environment, and you can test it. So if it looks fine, then what you can do, you can point this to a main accessible mm, I mean, basically, you'll point to the production traffic. So there will be another system, the green system. So basically, which will be always serving the traffic. So this will be a live traffic system. So in this, always application pointing to this system, and it will serves the traffic. So when you want to have the same changes in this green, so it will be getting exchanged. So first we'll be deploying it to a blue, and the application endpoint URL pointed to this system, and this will become green, and this will start serving the traffic, and this will become blue. So again we have to deploy our latest version of our application, and once it is ready, then we can again point that application endpoint to the green again. So this will becomes green again, and this will become blue. So again, when the new feature request comes up, and when you have the new version or the latest version, when you want to deploy, then you have to deploy to the blue, and testing should happen. And once it is good, then the application endpoint URL point to this system. Until that, again we will be deploying the latest version into the system, and will make sure it should be good to serve the live traffic. Then the application endpoint URL will uh, connect back to the existing system. So this is how it happens in the blue green deployment. So this is how the blue green works. Okay, there is one more deployment called canary, and there is recreate deployment, and also a ramped deployment, and shadow deployment. A- so this is an A/B testing deployment. So basically, in DevOps, we'll be using canary deployment and blue green deployment most of the time, and also ramp deployment. Ramped as in, like, if when you have a three systems or two systems, it will be deploying one by one. So for example, we have three systems. The deployment will first go to the first system and make sure the deployment is working fine. Then again it will deploy to the other system and make sure the application is working fine or not. And also at the end it will be deploying to the last one. So that is called ramped. So stage by stage. So that is ramp deployment. And recreate deployment first. Yeah. So basically it will be controlled in the load balancer. So it will be controlled as a uh, traffic by these systems. So there are some strategies. I'll explain these in the later point time. But just understand, using deployment strategy, we will be making sure that application is up and running, even if you have multiple deployments. So is that clear?
Yes, Mithun.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, but go back to this again. I'll just show you some other diagram. So let us consider this. Whatever I have explained, those are available in this diagram. So you can see, right? So plan, in the plan section, they have not mentioned any tools, but in the code they have also mentioned Git, okay, Jira, and Eclipse. So I think this is not the actual requirement. Yeah, so basically they'll be having Eclipse for the development purpose, and Git is for the source code. Git will be used as a source code repository, as I mentioned. And for build, it will be having Maven, Gradle, and there are some Ant tool is also there. And for testing, we'll be having Selenium, JUnit, and for release, we'll be having a Jenkins and Bamboo. Jenkins subsequent or equivalent tool is also is available in the market. That is called Bamboo. Okay, so there is a equivalent tool for the Jenkins is also Bamboo. And deployment will be having Puppet, Chef, and Ansible, and also will be having a Terraform and SaltStack. So this comes under the deploy. And in the monitoring, we'll be having NaggyOS. NaggyOS is again metrics monitoring, and Splunk is for the log monitoring, and Sensu is again metrics monitoring. And there are some other monitoring tools comes in between. So these are all tools. Okay, whatever you are seeing it here, right? So these are all tool. So that's the reason DevOps is also called as a tool based. uh, I mean, it's a tool based. So basically, it will be having multiple tools, and you have to, as a DevOps engineer, you have to work on the tool. How many? I mean, if you are familiar with all these tools, then you are perfect DevOps engineer. So if you know few of the things, then that is also fine. So basically, make sure you should be part of the building the pipeline. Pipeline as in like entire end-to-end CI/CD process. Okay, I'll explain that how to build a CI/CD and how to make use of each tools in our DevOps. So I'll be teaching what this tool does in this stage, and what this tool does this is does in this stage, and I'll keep explaining or keep learning on these tools. Okay, so at the end we'll be completing our CI/CD process. So, but as a uh, beginner to the DevOps, so we'll be learning uh, tool by tool, so not all in one, because these are all heavy. You cannot learn it in a one day or a week, so it will take some time. So but before that, make sure you have to understand what this tool will be helped in the DevOps, and how to operate this tool, and what is the use of this tool. So that's enough to understand for setting up the CI/CD, entire CI/CD process as a DevOps engineer. So in the next class, I'll be teaching Git and GitHub. In the other sessions, we'll be learning how to build that code into a executable file using some Maven build tools and Gradle build tools, and also how to test that. So will testing also be done. So basically, building and testing and releasing will be done through the Jenkins itself. So whatever the tools you are seeing, Maven, JUnit, Selenium, uh, and yeah, Git. So these are integrated in the Jenkins tool itself. In the same tool, we can integrate all these tools as a plugins. So that I'll explain in the upcoming classes. But before that, in the next class, in the tomorrow's class, we can cover what is Git and GitHub. So we'll learn one by one. So not all in one, we cannot learn it in a single day. So that's the reason. So we can go one by one. So upcoming classes will be learning these many tools as much as possible. I'll try to cover all these tools, but let's see. So we require Git for source code repository, and Maven for build, and Jenkins is also required for CI/CD process. And under that, we'll be using JUnit and some other tools. So most of the tools are not mentioned here, and just it's a high level architecture. So how the DevOps loops look like, and what are the stages available in the DevOps. So DevOps loops will be having uh, SDLC as well as this additional steps. So release, deploy, operate, monitor. These are the additional steps as part of the DevOps. Okay. So basically, we'll be learning the tools in the DevOps. Is that clear to you? Hello.
Yes,
Yes,
Mithun.
sir.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. So if you have any questions, you can ask us by any time. We have the WhatsApp group, right? So we can discuss over there. But yeah, this is about introduction of our DevOps class for today's. And in the next upcoming sessions, I'll explain how to use how to operate each of these tools. So we'll learn one by one. So before that, before going to the next class, we'll start what is Git and GitHub in the today's. So just I'll just introduce what is Git and GitHub for today's class. Okay. So we have to create an account with GitHub. So we have to download the Git to your uh, laptop. So Git is a client, and GitHub is a centralized web-based application. So it's a web page. So like you can browse it in the internet. So if you type github.com, basically it opens the web page. So basically this is the centralized base where you can store your uh, GitHub codes, so source codes. So if you are working on any projects, right, so you can store your all source code into a centralized place called GitHub. So I'll explain what is the use case of having a GitHub and Git. So before that, just have to sign up. So I'll show you what are all the steps required to sign up. So we can complete this in today's session, and rest of the things we'll cover it in the next session. So as I mentioned, uh, so Git is the client as in like you have to operate this GitHub alva. So you have to operate this GitHub using some tools. So that tool is called as uh, Git. So that is for your local system. So when you want to operate this GitHub from your uh, laptop or from your computer, you can do using this Git tool. So there is a tool or the client which will be available to operate this GitHub that is called Git. And there is a GitHub this is the place. This is basically a centralized web page where we'll be having all your source code and some repositories. Okay, so I'll explain how to sign up with this GitHub account. For the first time, as a beginner, you have to sign up. So click on the sign up, and yeah, so it will ask you to provide the email ID. So I have to provide the email ID. So can anyone share your screen so that I can help you with the creation of GitHub account? Because I have already used multiple email IDs and I cannot create this GitHub account. It won't take the existing email IDs if you already created.
Mithun, I think I already have GitHub.
Okay, is anyone having GitHub account, or if you want to create a new one, you can share your screen. I'll help you with that steps. I'll stop sharing the screen.
Sir, if you can permit me to share my screen, I can.
Yeah, sure. How to do that? 1 second. 1 second. I don't know how to provide access. Let me check. Give me a second, guys. Just pause the recording.
This
Okay.
conference will now be recorded.
No, entire screen. Can you see my screen, sir?
No, we are unable to see a screen. Guys, are you able to see his screen?
Now it has highlighted. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see. Yeah, I can see your screen.
Okay. So this is the new window. What should I type in? Google.
GitHub.com.
Okay.
Just type GitHub.com.
Okay.
Remove the rest of namespace. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there is an option called sign up. Click on sign up.
Sign up. Okay.
Yeah. So if you are a first time, if
User.
you want to access this GitHub as a first time, then you have to sign up. Provide your email ID.
Yeah. Got it, sir. Yeah, I did.
Yeah. Click on continue.
Continue.
Create a password.
Okay.
This will be the password for accessing your GitHub account. You have to remember this password. Okay. I have to provide the username. So this username will be appeared in the GitHub account. Like you used to create in the AWS account, right? The same kind.
Yeah.
Okay. Click on continue. Yeah. Just would you like to receive product?
Yes.
You can say yes or no. Yes. Click on yes.
Yeah.
Continue. Click on start puzzle.
Start this.
Yeah. You have to click on the spiral galaxy. Yes. The second one. Create an account. Yeah.
Oh,
So it has sent one verification code to your email. Just get that and enter it here.
okay.
So these are the very easy are the simple steps to sign up to the GitHub. So once you enter the verification code, you will be able to access the GitHub account. Uh, Enter the code. Let's see.
Yes, sir. Just a minute. I am entering it.
Yeah. Sure.
Student, continue.
Okay. Okay, so here, scroll down. I cannot see your complete screen.
Colla- what specific features are you interested in using? Collaborative coding, automation and CI/CD, security,
So
client
select
apps.
all. These are all for enterprise purpose. Even if you select all, it will be having limitations for the community purpose, community edition. So you are going to use the free account, not the enterprise one. Click on continue.
Sir, I have selected all, sir.
Yeah, yeah, that's fine. Click on continue.
Okay,
Even if you click on continue, it will be having two kind of account types. One is free, another one is enterprise. There is a pro
okay,
version. So under this pro version, you will get additional benefits. But we don't require as a beginner. Just you can go with the free account. Continue
continue
as a
for free.
yeah. Awesome. So now I have created a GitHub account successfully. So go to your rightmost corner. There is
Yes, sir.
a profile.
Yeah,
Click on that.
yeah,
So your username is displayed. That is unique across the GitHub accounts. So uh, if you create any repository and you want to share with anyone across the globe, right?
yes,
Your
sir.
user ID will be available along with your repository name. So I'll explain that. Can you please stop sharing your screen? Let me share my screen
Uh,
and I'll.
okay, just a
Yeah.
minute. I'll go to and
No, you can just click on share button. There will be an option to
okay.
stop sharing.
Stop sharing.
Yes.
Stop sharing. Yes, sir.
Okay. Let me share my screen. Okay. So I have already have an account with GitHub. So I do have a lot of emails. Okay. Where is the flower here? So while logging in, you can either use your email ID or your username. Anything should be fine.
Sure.
I forgot the password. Let me open email. Give me a second, guys. Okay, so now I'll enter my password. Device verification. Eight double nine 155. Okay, so I have logged into my GitHub account. This is how you see the home page of the GitHub account once you logged in. So these are the repositories which are created by myself. So that's the reason you are seeing it. If you are signed up for the first time, you don't see any of these repositories. So what are these repositories? I'll explain one by one. So first, before getting into this repository section, so let us see what are the features or the options available in the home page. So basically, you will be having a profile. So profile section here. Under this, you will be having your username. So that is your username. Okay, and you will be having some other settings and configurations which are available in this section. So basically, you can see how many repositories you have created, and what are all the projects you have, and what are all the other settings which you can do it. So that will be can see. I mean that can be seen in the in this section, profile section, and there is plus mark. So if you just click on the drop down, so there will be option to create a new repository as in like new project. So for example, if you want to have one source code space for your code, I mean storing your all programmable files, so that you can store it in the uh, group of or in the common place called new repository. So once you create a repository, so for example you are seeing it, right? So these are the repositories which are already created by myself. So each repositories will be having its own project source code. So for example, I have project 1, project 2, project 3, or application 1 or application 2, application 3. For each applications, I'll be creating each repositories. So that will be call it as a uh, repository 1 for application A, repository 1, 2 for the application 2, or something like that. So ideally, what we do whenever we create a repository site, we'll be giving the same name of our application names. So for example, my application name is application 123, and I'll be creating the GitHub repository name as a same application name. For example, this repository name as application 123, something like that. So that you can create it, and when you click on the new repository, and also you can import your repositories. So using this, you can also import from one account to another account. That will also be possible, or from different source code repositories as well. That will be possible. Okay, so and gist, that is another option. So new organization. So whenever you work for the company, so you'll be having a organization is the account, basically account type. So where you can maintain all your multiple repositories under the same organization. Basically it will group all your multiple accounts. So we have signed up to the account, right? So if you make it as an organization account, so what happens, under this organization account you can create multiple user accounts. For example, you are working under the company ABC or XYZ. So that company will procure or having the organization account. Basically, they'll create it as an organization account. So whoever part of that company, they'll start creating their GitHub account. So whoever creates their account in the GitHub, so that will be part of that organization. So they'll ask you to create your account under the same organization. So that those will be available in the uh, organization. So that is how it works. I'll explain that, and I'll show you how to create the organizational account and how to be a part of that. Okay, so basically that is about organization, and project is also something similar to the repository. So these are the options. You can get it under the plus mark, and there is a bell icon. So here you will get the notifications. If you have any notifications relevant to your GitHub repository, you'll get it under here. So there are some other options, so which we can see in the later discussions. Okay, so let me create one simple repository. Click on new repository. So here this owner name or the username comes as a prefix for every for your repositories. So that says you are the owner for this repository. That meant that is the, I mean, this repository is part of this owner. So this belongs to this owner. Okay, so let me give one repository name, application 123. Okay, that is my repository. So I can
Mithun,
provide some.
sorry to, hello.
Yeah, 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 go ahead.
You're not recording the
Sorry, is it recording or not recording?
recording session.
It's not recording, Mithun.
I think it's
No,
recording.
recording
No,
is
it's recording.
done. It's recording.
It's
Yeah, so
recording.
yeah, you were saying something. Was there any question? Okay, okay, fine. So repository name is you can give any name relevant to your application names. So if I have the application called application 123, you can give the same name as a repository name, something like that. And also you can provide some description. If you want to give, you can give, otherwise you can leave it. This is optional. So there are two kind of repositories which you can create. When you go with the public, uh, outside people can also access your repositories. So if you have some confidential code or confidential details which you will be storing in this repository, then you can go with the private. This will be accessible for yourself. So if you are creating this under the organization account, they can access. But though if you are creating as a private account, this will be accessible for yourself, not to the other people. So that's the reason whenever you are creating a project, right, make sure which kind of accessibility you want to have it for your repositories. So if you want to share this repository to somebody else, uh, then you can go with the public. And if you go with the private, you can access by yourself, and also you can add some people which you want to part of this repository. That will also be possible in private. But public, can anybody comes and access your code. But in private, whoever is having access to this repository, they can access. That is the difference between private and public. Is that clear? For example, if I create a public, anyone can see my repositories. So if I go with a private, nobody can see my uh, repository until I provide access to them. So if I add them as a maintainer or the reader or writer user, then they can start seeing my repository. Until that, they cannot see my source code or the repository files. That is the difference between public and private. And there is one more option called add a readme file as a to initialize this repository with a file. So when you create this repository without having any single files, it will be empty repository. So if you want to add a readme file as a informational file, then you can add this. So this will be added to your repository as a first file. Later you can keep adding your other files to it. So there are some other configurations as well. So these are additional things which we don't discuss at this moment. So I'll just explain what is git ignore. So git ignore is basically tells what are all the files to ignore when you are pushing from your computer to the this GitHub source code repository. So another, if you want to hide or don't want to push your credentials files into the GitHub repository, then you can go with this option, add git ignore files. So there are some uh, templates which you can use it for your requirement. So as of now, I will not be going with all these options. Okay. So if you have any licenses, just you can also use this. I don't want to go with the licenses and all. So just I'll be giving given my name, and also I have chosen as a public, and also I am adding a single file to it. So let me create it. So let's see, this is my repository. So under this you can start adding the files, your programming files relevant to your applications. So what are all the files which are relevant or part of your application, you can start storing it in this place. So whenever you store or delete, right, so that will be tracked. So how it will be tracked means there will be option called commit. So under this you can track who committed on what day and who does what. Everything can be tracked under this commit section. Okay, and also you can see it here, right? So if I share this URL to you guys, so you can access, because I have made this repository as a public. Okay, anyone can access this repository. When you see this URL, right, it is having ss mithun, that is my username, after the github.com, and along with that it will be having the repository name. So whatever the repository name we have created, that will be comes as a that will be appended to the URL. So github.com username slash the repository name. Like this you can access multiple GitHub accounts and its repositories. Okay, so let me give this URL and try accessing it and try to access whether it is accessible or not. Tell me. And also we can create one private repository and we'll see whether it will be accessible or not. Likewise, what I'll do, I'll create another repository saying application 123 private. I'll just say keyword called private. Okay, I'll make it as a private, and I'll also add one readme file for this and click on create repository. And I'll also share this URL and try to access this. You tell me which one is accessible and which one is not accessible. Guys, are you able to access that URLs? Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir. The first link is accessible, sir.
Okay.
And the second
What
link,
about,
it is coming as 404 error,
yeah,
unable to
404.
access.
Yes. So what about others? Did you try to access? Vinay, Vimal, Sharan, Madhu, Ganesh?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, then
Yeah, access. First one is visible and second one is 404.
Because the second repository which I created as a private, that will not be
It's private.
accessible to anyone else. Yeah, so Anirudh has created one account, right? So for him, I'll give an access and let's see whether he'll be able to access it or not. How to provide the access means there is an option called settings for this specific repository. So I am under this repository, right? Application 123 private. So under this, what you can do, you can go to settings. So there is an option called collaborators. So just click on the collaborators and you will be having option to add the people. So let me add Anirudh user ID. So Anirudh, what is your user ID which you given for the sign up, GitHub sign up?
Anirudh, ANIRUDH B
Okay, okay,
1907.
1907. So I'll add you. So you'll get one email notification saying like the person, um, me sent you the request to be a part of this repository. So just open your email ID and access the link.
Okay, wait a minute, sir.
Yeah. So this is this invite is waiting until he confirms. Once he confirms, then it will be saying it as some other state. It will turn to different state basically. Now it is pending state. Let me know once you accept that invite.
Sir, I have clicked on that view invitation,
Yes, click on
accept
that.
invitation,
Yes, accept it.
accepted, sir.
Okay, fine. Let me rephrase this. This state will turn to a different state. A pending state in the it will turn to different state. Let me rephrase this page. It's gone. So basically, he is part of my private repository, and now he'll be able to access the repository. Anirudh, can you try to access this repository now? The second link.
Yes, sir. Okay, wait a minute. Uh, App private, right?
Yeah, app private. The second
No.
link. Basically, I think the second link, right? You can access that.
Uh,
Refresh the page.
yeah, app private. Yeah, I can see,
Are you
sir.
able, okay? Are you able to see?
Readme.md is there.
Yeah. So that is how basically we'll configure. So we'll be basically creating a repositories with a private. If you have any confidential details, for every organization, will not be creating the repositories as a public. So if you are a contributor to something else, if you are part of some any uh, I mean, you are releasing some public uh, uh, tools or something. If you are part of the contributor for the tools, then you can create it as a public. So if you are just doing your own project and you don't want to show the code to some other people in the GitHub, so what you can do, you can basically make it as a private and start using it. So in case if you want to share that access to anyone of your interest, then you can get the person user ID of the GitHub user ID, and you can add it as a collaborator. So how to add it? Go to settings, and under this it will be an option called collaborators. So under that collaborators, click on that, and there is an option to add the people. So you can just add, click on add. So you have to get their username or the email ID. Anything should be fine. If you give the username, that will be comes as, so for example, I have another account C. So if the account is exist, if the user ID is exist with the GitHub account, then only it will show this option. So if you give some dummy name, it won't show up. So basically, if the account is exist, then it will then only it will allow you to send the invite. Otherwise, it won't allow you to send any invites. Okay, so until they accept it, it will be in the pending state. Once they accept it, it will comes as something like this. But if you have a pro version, you will be having option to make them as a admin or make them as a writer or something like that. But that can be seen in the organizational account. That can be controlled in the organizational account. I'll show you how to create organizational account, and under that how to provide access to the people, and how to add them to the private, sorry, to the organizational account. So we'll discuss in the next class, but make sure please create or sign up to the GitHub account, and also create two kind of repositories. One is a private, one is public, and try to uh, exchange your access between your private accounts, private repositories, and check the accessibility. So if you practice these, it will be helpful for the next classes. Any questions, guys, or any doubts?
No, Mithun.
No, sir.
Okay, then I'll stop sharing. I mean, I'll stop recording the session first.